Hey guys, it's Core Ross and welcome to 6 News. So I have had early access to the brand new season of Rainbow Six Siege, which is called High Caliber, and I have played the new operator who is called Thorn. So I've had a good couple of days to sit down and see what I think and pass on the information to you guys. So let's break down this new operator and the changes that are coming with this season, because there is huge changes coming. Although most of the expected ones that were left over in the Year 6 roadmap reveal from earlier this year haven't turned up, and we've actually got a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's break down Thorn. She is our brand new defensive operator, and she is a trap operator. She is a 2-speed and she has proximity mines. So think of her kind of like Capcan, but she can place her mines anywhere. Because of that, she does have less mines. She's only got 3 and they're proximity detonated but with a delay. However, they are extraordinarily lethal. So Capcan gets more and of course is limited to doors, but I can see why they buffed him recently, because otherwise this girl would be way better than Capcan in every single way. So it makes sense to give him a little buff to compete, especially with her selection of weaponry. So she is equipped with the brand new UZK-50GI. Now I'm actually quite surprised by this. It's a fictional weapon, but it is a real caliber. However, it kind of looks a lot like the SMG-12. Like they kind of, they could have pushed the box a little bit here, because it just looks so similar. However, it does not handle the same. It is insanely good, even with the 700 fire rate, which is kind of low. It still, I think, is top tier. The actual recoil is really good and really enjoyable, and it's special as well because it will put bigger holes in walls than your normal SMGs, so it's got a little bit more utility as well. However, if you do want bigger holes, you've got Jaeger and Bandit's shotgun as another primary option, and then for secondary weapons she's got Maverick's pistol and the C75 auto. So to me, the SMG and the auto are the obvious choices here, and that is an amazing kit to have. And like literally, I think they're going to have to nerf it in like a couple of months, I expect. But she's also got secondary gadgets of a deployable shield, which is very useful with her gadget, and barbed wire, which again is actually useful with her gadget. I've also done some quick recoil testing on the new SMG. I think it is top tier. Now, disclaimer, of course, this is pre-test server, so it may well change over the next 3 weeks. But on mouse and keyboard, it's really good. There's a little bit of initial recoil of the first round, but that's kind of it. On controller, it is god tier. Like literally probably the best SMG in the game in my kind of opinion after using it. It is amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a nerf before it actually goes live. Now, there's something else, which is the reload. It's actually quite a lengthy reload. It's probably the biggest downside to this gun, but I slowed it down because something seemed off. So what actually happens in the reload, she pulls out the magazine, then does a flick, and another magazine drops out. I think at some point in the past, for development, it probably had a quicker reload, because I think she used to do a flick to get rid of the magazine, then put a new one in, whereas now she pulls it out, but also the old one is still in there, so we'll probably see that get fixed during the test server session. But yeah, the lengthy reload is the only downside, I think, to this weapon. Also, the magazine might look a little bit big, and actually when she puts it back in, the chunky bit is actually going into the gun and then comes back out. The reason it's so big is, of course, it's a 50 caliber round, so they're big. So it looks like an extended magazine, which should hold like, at least like 30 to 40 rounds. But of course, because those rounds are so big, they don't fit that many into this huge magazine. Oh, and it sounds great. So here's some actual gameplay of just the sound itself. I've also thrown in the suppressed version too. But let's just double back around to the gadget itself. So it's very much useless, I think, as a solo weapon. If you're just playing as yourself and you're solo queuing with this new operator and you're trying to use these mines, you might get the odd kill, but for the most part, it's not really a good weapon to bring along. Now, if you team up with, say, a Legion or someone who can slow down operators, then suddenly this mine becomes incredibly lethal and is definitely worth using. So it's very different from Capcom. Capcom, of course, you just put them down, you leave them, and you go away, and there's no interaction with teammates or anything like that. This is very much a team gadget. You need to work with teammates to get kills with it, and it is extraordinarily lethal. So even a 3 armor in range of this thing will get blown away. Its blast radius is also huge, but it doesn't work like an explosive in Siege. This thing is quite odd and it interacts with gadgets in very different ways and surfaces. So let's say you had this on a soft wall and the attacker was on the other side of that wall and this thing explodes. The attacker would not take any damage whatsoever. Now of course they wouldn't actually set it off, but none of that damage goes through the wall. There's no holes or anything. Now there is visible shrapnel that comes off and impales into surfaces and just anything around you, but it doesn't do any damage. So for instance, we set it off right next to a mirror window and one of the shrapnel actually went into the canister, but of course the canister never actually exploded. And then its interaction with different things is also very curious and very complicated. So I'm going to just play right now just a montage of different tests we did. And the takeaway is, for the most part, it will not destroy any bulletproof gadget, but any softer gadget it will just wipe out. But let's say you have a Maestro cam and you actually open up the bulletproof glass and you would think, oh, it would destroy it then, but it doesn't. So the way it interacts with the stuff is unusual. The explosion is line of sight, so obviously you can throw a nitrocell on the ceiling and kill someone above. You couldn't do anything like this with this gadget, which means hiding it is going to be complicated and a problem. Because let's say I want to hide this so visually it can't be seen because obviously it's glowing blue. So I put it between 2 barrels, for instance, and the attacker just leisurely walks past it. It'll arm itself and detonate, but by the time it goes off, with just the limitation in line of sight, the attacker is probably going to be past it and not get hurt at all. So placement is going to be very important. I could definitely see this just getting placed above doors and stuff like that. That might be the simplest and easiest so that people can't see it. But of course the problem is they can just take a step back, go the other side of the door and be safe again. But let's talk counters. So first of all, IQ can detect it as it's a tech-based gadget. You can also shoot it with like a twitch drone. You can disable it with an EMP. There's plenty of ways to get around it. And like I say, as long as you're vigilant, you shouldn't have too much issues getting killed by this thing. But overall, my conclusion is that this girl is a lot of fun to play. She's got an insane loadout. I think that's why she'll get picked most of the time, unless they significantly nerf that loadout. And her gadget is simple to use, that's a definite bonus, but I just think it's too easily counterable by simply moving away from it. And like I say, using that line of sight as an attacker, you're going to be able to avoid it very easily. But there will be instances when you're in a firefight and this thing's going to go off and you just don't have any option and you get taken out. Or, a lesion mine goes off, you can't move quick enough and you get taken out. There's a lot of potential for this thing to be played really cool. And another thing that makes her very different to Capcan or Frost is she can put her mines outside. And that means you've got a lot of potential to mess with people either early in the game or late in the game when it comes to being outside. And of course you can put these on windowsills, so if someone's rappelling up, they might actually have a mine go off in their face as they get to the window. So yeah, she's pretty cool, but I don't know if I'm going to play her much. I honestly think Capcan for me is a better kind of mix. He's more of a solo play, and that's what I'm spending most of my time doing in Siege, whereas this girl I think is going to be much better when it comes to team play. But anyway guys, that's it for the new operator. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I've got a video out on the dedicated 6 News channel that goes over all the changes. So like, think I'll be doing a self-revive, the complete overhaul of the HUD, and full-on customization of elites, like literally everything being customizable, including stuff like player cards, along with a ton of other secret changes coming with this season.